Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. So tonight I'm going to show you how to install Catless headers onto your E46 and E39 equipped with the M52 TU and the M54 series engine. Now over the years I've installed quite a few sets of these, so let's get right into it. Okay, and here are the headers. So when they first arrive in the mail, I will obviously unpackage them and examine them real quick. I do also check one key thing before doing anything else. I will stage these up as if they're bolted to the head by simply doing this. I will lay them flat on the floor. I'll step on this one. I will grab the Bank 2 header, put it right here. I'm going to check the clearance for this O2 sensor bung right here, the most problematic one from what I've seen, okay? I'm going to do this, stage them up about that close. I'm going to look and see, and I can already tell you that this set is going to give me issues with that bung, okay? I'm going to show you. O2 sensor, just like that. Grab this again, set it up, and it's going to hit. You see that? That's going to cause issues with this sealing to the cylinder head. It's going to prematurely burn that sensor out because it's hitting. Now, how I remedy that is I will take this sensor and I will relocate it to this bung right here. You're probably wondering now, Tyler, what about the sensor that's supposed to go there? Where does that go? That is this one right here. I simply throw this away because from factory, the downstream O2 sensors, which are behind the catalytic converter, are simply there for nothing more than to monitor the health of the cats. That is it. Nothing performance-based. So whenever we go to a Catless header, these become redundant and can be thrown away, okay? That is going to solve the issue with this bung clearance. Now also, this is obviously a used set, but brand new out of the box, these will be much taller. This bung will be like triple the size of that. We must keep this in direct exhaust stream. This upstream sensor cannot be deleted. This is going to help maintain proper air-to-fuel ratios as it reports directly to the DME. So as long as it stays in direct exhaust stream, it's going to give us optimum performance and fuel economy. So by simply shaving down this bung and flushing it up so it can seal, we'll just put it down here and it will be directly in the exhaust stream. It's going to be a happy engine. Now as far as plugging this off, because it's a big hole, be a giant exhaust leak, I do nothing more than take the supplied bolt, the cat bolt. I will then go to the O2 sensors I'm throwing away. I will remove the crush washer from them, and I will thread them on to these plugs. And that is going to give me a nice seal, and it'll give me no problems on the road. Now I'm going to show you exactly what not to do when your headers have issues, okay? Here is a great example. I see this all the freaking time. See this adapter right here? This is a huge no-no when it comes to upstream O2 sensors. These are designed for downstream sensors, okay? They are not to be used for upstreams. Do not put these on these freaking headers. I see it all the dang time. Because once again, upstream sensor, important for fuel economy and engine performance, air-to-fuel ratios. You are removing it from direct exhaust stream. Way too far away from that, right? Because if you have issues with fitment, once again, cap this bung off, put the sensor down here. So you can see, here's a brand new one, the length. Cut this bung down, flush it up, so that can be in direct exhaust stream. Nothing more simple as that. And then as far as the gaskets that come with these, looks like this, right? They are absolutely junk. Throw them out because they will separate and begin leaking usually in less than a month's time. They do this with barely any effort. They are junk gaskets. Very cheap rubber insert in the middle. So I also throw these away, and I like to use gaskets intended for an E46. They look like this. They are a nice quality, double steel layered with a nice insert in the middle to really crush and seal up the manifolds, and they do not blow out like those cheap gaskets, okay? You can also use the exhaust manifold gaskets for an E46 with the heat shields, but I'm going to show you exactly why I prefer these ones over those any day. Okay, another key note is, when it comes to M52 TU cars versus M54 cars, this flange and bolt spacing did not change. These will physically bolt to those engines across the board. What they changed was this flange. They changed the clocking or the rotation of it. This is the proper direction for an M52 TU, okay? The M54 cars, the flanges will be clocked this way. That's the only difference. Now, the downfall is, although a website guarantees fitment for a 323 and 328, 9 times out of 10, more commonly, you will receive a set of M54 headers in the mail. Once again, same flange here, same design, same everything. This flange will be different. So how you fix that is you simply come to your header or your stock exhaust, cut off the flange, rotate, and weld. Okay, just be prepared to do that as well, because once again, these people who guarantee their fitment, typically, regardless, you'll receive ones for an M54. I'm not sure what it is, if it's quality control or what, but... So when it comes to the cylinder head of the M52 TU and the M54, they're basically the same exact casting and everything. However, they did change one thing. On the M52 TU and the first production model of M54, they have every single hole drilled and tapped for the exhaust side. You see that? Whereas in mid to late 02 for M54, they did not. See that? So the reason why I like to use these E46 style gaskets is because when it comes to early M54 and M52 TU, I can use every single hole like E36 did, leading to a nice secure bond. Now, you can also use the stock E46 manifold gaskets with the built-on heat shield. However, it is harder to start the bolts with the heat shield in the way whenever the engine's in the car. That is reason number 2 why I like to use these gaskets. Okay, so before installing the manifolds, I like to clean off the mating surfaces for the gaskets to bond to. So I will take a rag with acetone, and I'll wipe down all the ports on the exhaust side. I will also wipe down the flanges of the headers. I still like to take my gaskets, also get them nice and clean and dry, because I take this Permatex RTV gasket maker called Optimum Gray. It's almost empty because I use it a lot. But I will lather up those gaskets, both sides, with gloves on, to really help seal any foreign divots, discrepancies in the surfaces, and it will just really help seal it up. Okay, now that the gaskets and the flanges of the headers are clean and dry, I'm going to lather up with my RTV now. That should do it right there. There's a nice coating on the full gasket. Now take note, these E36 gaskets have a small tab right here. Those must face away from the cylinder head, okay? So I'm going to lay them down just like this. Right on the header. I'm going to do the next one now. That one's done too. Looks pretty good. Nice coat, whole thing. Once again, little tab face down away from the cylinder head. Like that. Okay, once these are stuck on here, let them tack up for a couple minutes so they really stick to the headers. Also take note that my O2 sensors are pre-installed. Also got my plug on the front here tightened down with, once again, an O2 sensor washer sealing it. That's tightened down. Okay, while the gaskets are curing up a little bit, getting sticky, I'm doing a little planning ahead here. I'm probably going to install the Bank 2 header first. It looks like it's going to be the easiest way to do it anyway. Also going to be reusing the stock hardware. I've had no issues doing so. You're going to get various tools. I like to use ratcheting wrenches a lot for these headers. Stubby and long. Also a 1/4 inch ratchet, 11mm socket with a small extension. That should be able to get most of the bolts in. Oh. going to grab one fastener. I'm going to put it in this frontmost corner here. It's going to help hold the gasket in position. Okay, once you have a few bolts started in here, you can grab the second header and put it in and do the same thing. I started at about 5 bolts and got the header to seat flush to the head. You can also see my position changed from down here to laying in the engine bay. This is super nice. I have access to every bolt location. My tools are much easier to use. Get my arm in there and stuff like that. Now, if you're a larger person by nature, you may not want to lay in here. You might break things. I'm a smaller person. I don't weigh very much. So me being in here, I'm not going to harm anything. Once again, I'm going to grab one of these bolts. I'm going to probably use this one just to help hold in the gasket and to help me position this header that much easier. Bam. And just like that, the Bank 1 header is now fastened. Now it seems to be best to install the Bank 2 header first, as it went very smooth to get the Bank 1 in there down behind it. Worked out very nice. Now I'm going to get back in my position up here and get these bolts put in. Okay, now the Bank 1 header is fastened down. And here we are. The headers are now successfully bolted onto the cylinder head. I was able to utilize every single location. So we now have 12 studs and nuts per header. They are bonded nicely to the cylinder head. Now, in my case, I had 3 of them that were getting tight way too soon. So I simply pulled them back out and I chased them with a tap. The thread pitch on these cylinder heads is going to be an M7 by 10 thread pitch. So if you feel like one's getting too tight on you, take it back out, chase it with a tap if you can. Some of these you can't do that with, but yeah. Also, when it comes to O2 sensor spacing down here at the firewall and things like that, the E39 is much more forgiving. There's loads of room down there. Whereas E46, you may face issues with the downstream bungs wanting to hit the firewall and such. Not really a huge deal, as the sound deadening and heat shielding is very forgiving. It's very soft. You can easily take a hammer, even like a rubber mallet or a dead blow, something that's non-marring. You can knock in the sound deadening and the heat shielding quite a bit. There's a lot of space between it and the actual body of the car, so you can really knock it in some to get clearance for your downstream O2 bungs. And E39, absolutely no problems at all. Loads of room, even with the engine still jacked up. Those O2 sensors clear fine down there. So I'm now going to fasten the engine mount arm back to this block. Now, just like E46 here, I had to take a hammer and knock down the heat shield here. Not really a huge deal. Originally, this heat shielding was more off. It was bent more off of the arm. It was like up here. So I simply knocked it down with a hammer, and I conformed it basically to the shape of the arm. And that was all it took to clear the headers. And now this will go right back in. It's always good to dry fit this before you do a final install, because 9 times out of 10 that heat shield on here will hit the header and it will not allow you to bolt it nice and flush to that block. Same on E46, pretty much the same area. This piece right here and all of here usually needs hit with a hammer and brought down some, or it will hit aftermarket headers. So as far as fastening the motor mount arm on an E39, I found it best to get these 2 front ones from within the engine bay, then the back 2 from underneath. These 2 right here, easiest from underneath, good access. So now that the engine mount arm is mounted to the block, nice and solid, we also have our ground strap here. It's mounted. We're going to lower the engine down and get the motor mount stud to come through the motor mount arm. As you can see, it didn't line up very well, so I'm going to have to move the engine down. Looks like it's going to have to come forward some, huh? That's okay, we can do that. Now I'm just going to grab the engine somewhere and pull on it. There it goes. Right through. I grabbed a hold of the Vanos, the exhaust Vanos solenoid, and just kind of pulled forward, and it just, bam, right down on. So now, get this last remaining nut here. I'm going to put it down on there. Alrighty, and now once you have the engine mount snugged up, 16 millimeter, we're going to go underneath the car, and we're going to fasten the rest of the exhaust. So let's do that real quick. And here we are, down underneath the car. As you can see, once again, for E39, here's my O2 sensors. Lots of room for clearance. No issues at all. And then also, whenever you go to plug them back in up there, those plugs, you can easily mix them up because they are the same exact plug, okay? So you want to make sure you mark them bank 1, bank 2, so you don't mix them up. If you were to mix them up by accident, the car would idle like crap, and it wouldn't run very well. So just make sure you don't mix up your plugs for your upstream sensors. And here are the flanges. We got those tightened down. Now, when it comes to cheap headers, the flange spacing will widely vary. I had a pretty hard time getting these bolted up here, actually. So I actually had to bend the exhaust so it could properly bolt up to the flanges. Now, sometimes you'll have to cut and re-weld just to get that proper angle. And also, I will rarely ever recommend you to use double gaskets on anything. But in this scenario, I like to use double gaskets on these flanges because the fitment can be so bad at times. A single gasket will not seal it up. So I like to use 2 gaskets down here. I'm probably actually going to cut this and weld it in the future because the fitment really sucks. It's not lining up very well. However, I don't think it was leaking or anything. But I just don't like the way it's lining up, so I'm going to fix that later. But yep. And there you go. Once you have your O2 sensors ran to avoid heat and everything, you should be good. Now, there's another component you can get rid of whenever you go to Catless headers. It's going to be the secondary air pump. You can remove this, and you can remove the check valve. The purpose of this is to force warm air through the cats during cold start to warm them up faster. So with the catalytic converters gone, this also becomes not needed, so you can just get rid of it. You will obviously throw a check engine light for secondary air pump circuit and things like that until you get a tune. And as mentioned earlier, you can also get rid of your downstream sensors, which are only there to monitor the health of the cats. Once you get rid of those, you will also have a check engine light until you get those coated out. But with the absence of these things, there will be no performance loss, just a check engine light until you get them coated. You can also go to the back of the intake manifold and remove the secondary air pump solenoid, which is right here. You can remove this and plug the vacuum port for it, because this also ties into the secondary air pump circuitry. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Catless headers install. Okay guys, that's all for today's video. If you found the following footage to be useful for you, feel free to subscribe to my channel, as I highly appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one.